I have said before and will continue to say that the coronavirus is not a big deal because it never was. The only people who are really at risk are people who have existing medical conditions and the elderly. As sad as it is, this is the same demographic that is most at risk during any outbreak, or winter months for that matter. In Italy, they realize this quite clearly. The short and sweet is that their hospitals are very limited in resources and will be delegating care to those most likely to survive rather than to all patients equally. This means that the doctors will be leaving the elderly to die because their socialist system cannot handle the vast number of cases. Hardly a week goes by without a news story out of one of these countries in which a patient dies waiting for care, even in a hospital hallway. Yet Americans want this system for ourselves. President Trump is doing everything in his power to fight the coronavirus short of denying healthcare to the sick like Italy or quarantining people to their homes like in China. Trump is working with big companies like Target, Walmart, and the like to have testing facilities in their parking lots. This means that hospitals will not be overrun by people, and they will just handle the more extreme cases. A Google sister company built a site that allows people to find a testing center by inputting their symptoms. This site will be a test to see if the Trump administration can oversee a website better than the Obama administration. We will see what we will see. It is no secret that President Trump is fighting the job-killing regulations that bureaucrats have put in place. These job-killing regulations have one purpose: to make employment difficult so that people will be dependent on the state for all of their needs. A 1938 rule forbids truck drivers from driving more than 11 hours in a 14-hour work period. The Trump administration is suspending this burdensome regulation. The waiver is extended to all truckers that are transporting supplies to restock depleted shelves and medical supplies. While this rule should and must be waived permanently, it is a good start. I think the truckers know what they can handle more than the bureaucrats. Some of the worst things in history have been done with the best of intentions. A regulation like this is a prime example. It is no secret that this coronavirus nonsense is throwing the United States economy higgledy-piggledy. Store shelves are empty because people are stockpiling goods like toilet paper rather than food. Schools are closed, and parents are being forced to educate their children at home. It is getting to the point that Texas schools are even considering canceling the STAR test because of all the closures. However, that is not the scary part. While liberals like Cuomo and New York are forcing people to not gather in groups, President Trump merely advises it. What a stark difference between the two parties. Maryland has decided to take this cold with a 98% recovery rate and is going to arrest people who violate the corona shutdown. We went from America is never going to be a socialist nation to having empty shelves and Americans being imprisoned for not being in their homes. At least the media is unbiased in their reporting of this. Oh wait! What's this? More people died during the bird flu epidemic, but the media did not cover this at all hours of the day, and there were no government-mandated quarantines. It was only once they realized that this could hurt President Trump that they changed their tune. We know that the virus started in China, and that it is somehow racist to call it a Chinese virus. It could have been contained, but the communist government refused to let that happen. It spread out of control and cleared the streets of Hong Kong protesters. China then keeps all the masks to themselves. Now the only masks that can do the job outside of China, which controls most of the manufacturing, are reserved for industrial usage. That is until master negotiator Donald Trump stepped in.
The other piece is we're grateful that the legislation passed by the House of Representatives includes liability protection for N95 masks produced by companies like 3M in Minnesota, by Honeywell. Literally tens of millions of masks are produced every year for industrial purposes, for construction. But the health experts say they can be used just as readily to protect healthcare workers from respiratory ailments. 3M and other companies were not able to sell those to hospitals, but the president negotiated with the Democratic leadership of the House and Senate. We've added a provision to the bill that will literally, from one company alone, add another 30 million masks per month back to the marketplace. We're strengthening the supply chain, and healthcare workers around America can be absolutely certain that the president and our entire team are going to continue to put the health of America first and put first our healthcare workers across this country that are meeting the needs of the people of our country.
President Trump had to cut through red tape to protect Americans. In summary, I contend that China got a bad trade deal and was stopped from stealing intellectual property, and so they used their power to keep things silent about COVID-19 until it could be used to cripple the economy. But our president was one step ahead. Missouri State Representative Ben Baker has been receiving death threats and hatred more than he has ever seen before. Activists have even targeted his family with death threats. What was his crime? He is trying to end Drag Queen Story Hour. That is it. This is age-inappropriate content for minors and sexually explicit. Many of the things done during this time are so R-rated that I can neither narrate nor type them. The Parental Oversight of Public Libraries Act would strip government funding of libraries that have this service. This is the reason for the hatred, vitriol, and death threats. Romans 1:24 comes to mind here. Wherefore God also gave them up to uncleanness through the lusts of their own hearts, to dishonor their bodies between themselves. Ginsburg, the same justice that admitted when Roe v. Wade was being considered that they were concerned about population growth of certain groups, is in the news again. Even if she was not yet on the court, she wanted funding to go to abortions because of this. The same justice claims that abortion is safer than childbirth. Even though the number of abortions that must be done to protect the life of the mother are so insignificantly small that they do not exist, she has to make radical statements like this because she will be hearing a case out of Louisiana, and she wants public support on her side when she rules that abortionists have no need to follow the rules passed by state legislators. A Canadian bill would jail parents who choose not to endorse same-sex attraction in their children. It does make sense that children should be protected from harmful decisions. You would stop a child from smoking a cigarette or drinking beer, even if he likes it. In the same way, this attraction damages the soul. Why would parents be arrested for this? It all comes down to whether or not people trust in God's eternal design or not. The Prime Minister is endorsing this bill, which would make forcing someone under the age of 18 undergo transition therapy a crime, punishable by 5 years in jail. Yet, they would not have the same reaction if the parents wanted to help the child remove all traces of beer or nicotine from his system. Maybe I'm just blowing smoke. Maybe I'm completely off my rocker, but that is just my opinion.